Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Biblio Fitness. And I think I'm gonna start doing this whole review on like certain aphorisms that I really find particularly engaging. It's a lot better than trying to, whatever. Point is, this is really fun. So for today, it is going to be aphorism 169 from the dawn of day. And it is titled "The Greek Genius Foreign to Us." Now, I'm just gonna, just say some stuff about it, and then obviously elaborate. So, quote: "Oriental or modern, Asiatic or European, compared with the ancient Greeks, everything is characterized by enormity of size and by the reveling in great masses as the expression of the sublime. While with the Greeks, to see with what small masses the Greeks were able to express the sublime, and how they loved to express it thus. In the same way, how simple were the Greeks in the idea which they formed of themselves. Again, how full of labyrinths would our souls and our conceptions of our souls appear in comparison with theirs. If we had to venture upon an architecture after the style of our own souls, we are too cowardly for that. A labyrinth will have to be our model. End quote. And obviously, I'm paraphrasing. I didn't say everything to the exact word, even though it is kind of a small aphorism. But I wanted to talk about that because the aphorism before, he is talking about why he prefers Thucydides over Plato, for example. How Thucydides was an objective, dispassionate poet, a man that just looked at events as they transpired and didn't really want to input, even though he does have his biases. He's a huge fan of Pericles, but he doesn't try to moralize things. He was a commander of the Athenians during the Peloponnesian War. But when he writes the history of the Peloponnesian War, he doesn't go about moralizing the sequence of events that transpired throughout the course of the war until he dies. He doesn't live to see the end of it. But he doesn't moralize. He just says things how they are, right? He's very objective. He doesn't paint the Spartans as some barbaric, imbecile, ignorant fools, He doesn't do any of that. He doesn't ridicule the opponents of Athens, like Corinth and the rest of the Peloponnesian League, along with Sparta, of course. And, a man that is aware of realpolitik, a man that looks at things objectively, unlike Plato, a man that, he will call you evil just because you insulted him in some way, or you disagree with him. He's going to paint you in the worst of lights because his bias is just like, his pride doesn't allow him to look at things objectively. And it's very interesting to note because, I'm obviously still looking at it, but, he goes ahead and talks about Thucydides, and he adds something noble into the way he portrays things. He doesn't try to insert his own moralizing. He doesn't try to insert his own concepts of good and evil, his biases, his justifications and stuff. Like, it's very clear cut. Sometimes it's a little bit too much with all the goddamn names of the cities, but it's still engaging. You don't feel like there's a message, like there's like some lesson that I have to learn, or some lesson that he's trying to teach me. Like when you read the Bible, for example, every lesson has to have something to do with it, right? They skew history in a manner that portrays them in a positive light, right? The whole, you read the Old Testament, and it feels like the entire world is revolved around the fucking Jews, for example. The Holy Land is Jerusalem for some reason. I wonder why. And how he goes on to talk about, quote, "Thus this culture of the disinterested knowledge of the world detains in him, the poet thinker, a final marvelous bloom. This culture, which has its poet in Sophocles, its statesman in Pericles, its doctor in Hippocrates, and its natural philosopher in Democritus. This culture, which deserves to be called by the name of its teachers, the sophists, in which unhappily from the moment of his baptism at once begins to grow pale and incomprehensible to us. For henceforward we suspect that this culture, which was combated by Plato and all these Socratic schools, must have been very immoral. And I don't know why he, end quote, that's the aphorism before, which is aphorism 168 on a model, is called a model. And I think it beautifully ties into the previous aphorism 169, the one I said first, because, and I feel like he says that we consider the train of thought of people like that, like Thucydides, and even for me, Heraclitus. Heraclitus was the guy that said war is progress. Because especially nowadays, we can't really be honest with ourselves, especially in such a feminized culture. Violence and war and conquest and all these other things are considered to be deplorable aspects of the human condition. We have tried for so long to expunge these traits from ourselves. No matter how hard we try, it's obviously impossible. And it's gray and dull to us because it's not filled with all this moralizing bullshit that Plato throws in, for example, and Socrates. Men that want to define what is good and evil. Men who were even mad. Socrates didn't even want gods to be portrayed in the way they were anymore. Socrates said that the gods should be portrayed in this huge, amazing ideal of righteousness and good and triumph and power and magnanimity and, and a semblance of what is noble and good. But even the definition of noble itself changed. I've always been a guy to adhere to realpolitik, real world politics and not morals. And I feel like there's always been that fight, especially now. Nobody would want to go to that school of thought. We all want to believe that we're striving for a higher purpose, that the suffering we're going through is for a higher purpose. Everyone always wants to say that. Everyone wants to always remind us how limited our logic is, and because of the limitations of our logic, how can we possibly surmise that there is no, if there's a limit to the logic, that means there's a world beyond our comprehension, and therefore there can't be a greater force, and that force can be good. That force could be altruism and stuff like that. But even in that argument in itself is a fundamental flaw. If our logic has a limitation, then how can you have possibly been falling with the conclusion that the world outside ours, its essence is for good? How did you get led to that conclusion? An inspiration? That's always the bullshit that people throw at us, right? That's always the shit that Christians and other religious people throw. Faith. It's so easy for them. It's such an easy cop-out whenever you have an argument with these people, or whenever I see an argument, faith, how can you possibly repudiate the Bible? God is behind your comprehension. You can never possibly logically deduce that there is no God. But how can you possibly know that there is a God? If a God is beyond our comprehension, how the fuck do you know he's around? And that's a beautiful point that Nietzsche made in a few aphorisms before, was talking about, God has to be a complete asshole, a cocksucker, or a complete moron. Because, it's either one or the other or both. And to make the argument for him being an asshole, cocksucker, narcissist, is because he has the truth. He has the true purpose of who we are, what we do, and yet he watches us fight and kill and murder each other, finding out what the truth is. What is our purpose in this world? What are we made for? What are we here for? We constantly fighting and killing each other to answer those fucking questions because we have this inclination that everybody has to believe in the same thing we do in order for it to be valid. And he doesn't say anything. He doesn't let us know. He allows all these limitless interpretations of what truth and good is, and he still allows us to slaughter each other. Or he's a complete fucking moron, and he can't even describe himself. He's just a stupid entity. He lacks the intelligence to articulate himself. And when you think about that, the God is a fucking narcissist. You're telling me that my whole purpose in life is to praise you? And if you think about it, that's what it is, right? Oh, you're born with a guilty saying you have to praise me for you to make it to heaven. Like, you are one insecure fuck. You sound like a girl. You know, like those fucking chicks that you date and they constantly need you to call them over the phone and text them and FaceTime them and send them memes on Instagram and stuff because they need constant affirmation and constant acknowledgement of the importance of their existence to your life and shit like that because they all have daddy issues. God has daddy issues then. You know? And to tie that into the aphorism that I really wanted to focus on in creating these massive buildings to describe the sublime in comparison with the Greeks, and that ties in beautifully with the whole dichotomy or the sides and the lines between people who are Plato, on the side of Plato, on the side of idealism, and those who side with Heraclitus, Democritus, and the people who sided with and Thucydides, realpolitik, men. And that's why every single time, the more I think about this, the more I read, the more I really do begin to realize that religion really is made for women, really is not made for men, because men, we can't focus our lives on this bullshit. But let me get my original point across, or the main point across, before I go ahead and off on another tangent. Because he also not talks about the great masses, but he talks about how simple the Greeks were in comparison to us. You know, if we want to develop an architecture to describe our consciousness, to describe our souls and how we conceptualize our soul, it would be that of a labyrinth. And I believe he says that is because we come up with all these elaborate concepts, elaborate lies, in order for us to keep going, in order to give us importance. You know, we are very selfish pricks. You know, every single religion has the universe as if we are the center of the whole fucking universe. Have you realized that? We are so narcissistic. We are so selfish. And the only reason we go to religion is to justify our selfish desires, is to justify our selfish impulses and drives and our will to power, if you really think about it. Because every religion, Christianity, for example, Christianity is always going to get dogged. I hate that religion. But, you know, the entire center, the creation of the universe is for us. Why is it for us? We're not important. But we have to make ourselves important in order for us to go along, right? You know, we have to construct these things in a way that allows us to continue to play. You know, when we go to religion, when we construct this labyrinth, this massive architecture, this massive maze that we can't even look into ourselves because we'll get lost. We construct all these excuses and lies and concepts of religion and God and nationalism and patriotism and all these things that we use as a fuel to exercise our drives. Because, you know, we really did get too smart for our own good. And the basis of survival, which is to procreate and find shelter and all that stuff, is no longer good for us. And the Greeks were simple because they were aware of our flaws. You know what I'm saying? They were aware of their own flaws. They were aware of human flaws. They're not like us that are developing these elaborate buildings and shit to hide ourselves away from everybody. You know, look at this big, beautiful thing. It's to hide. It's to hide all those things. Hide those flaws. Find a justification for those flaws. Bury them deep down. Bury them and build up this opulence in order for us to tell ourselves we're good. And not like the Greeks. Because if you look at the Greeks, look at the Greek pantheon, for example. They're human. They're human just like us. They're jealous. Fucking Zeus was whoring around all over the place. The guy had fucking a shitstorm with sons and daughters. Hera, an extremely jealous woman. That woman sent 2 snakes to fucking kill Heracles. That woman bestowed madness upon Heracles so he could kill his mother, his wife, and child. These people are very jealous. They have these strong human emotions that is attached to their divinity, but those human emotions didn't diminish their divinity. And I feel like the reason that the Greeks made it that way is because it was really simple. We are at the highest echelon, but there's nothing wrong with us. This is something that we are born with. This is something that we should correct. We should champion. We should positively and consciously acknowledge as aspects of ourselves, instead of nowadays coming up with all these elaborate bullshit lies in order for us to make it seem like we aren't those things, that we're so civilized. We've gotten so civilized. We're so much better than back then. Those people were barbaric. How can you possibly believe war is progress? How can you possibly think that conquering and taking over nations and all this other shit, how can you possibly think violence is the only answer? No, we have to be civil. We have to do this and this, and you have to follow these rules. And it's just a conflated bullshit compared to the Greeks. You know what I'm saying? And it's gray, like the realpolitik is gray, and it's not digestible for most people, to use how Nietzsche likes to talk about digestion. It's not digestible for us anymore, because we can't possibly acknowledge that. We can't consider that to be our reality, because then so many of our fallacies that we use to propel us forward will fall down the wayside. You know, we can't, truth really is the ultimate black pill. And it's just like, the older I get, it's just like, fuck, bro, we waste so much time lying to ourselves. Like, we constantly lie to ourselves. We constantly try so hard to be good people when, what the fuck is good? Is good being obedient? Obedient to someone else? Obedient to another construct? Obedient to another ideal? We don't even get a choice. We don't even give ourselves a choice. We just adhere to someone else's conception of what good is, and we just go along with it. We have constructed all these magnificent religions and philosophies and ideal and all these schools of idealism, with Immanuel Kant and all these people, when we haven't really changed. If you really think about it from truthfully, if you really look at the world, if you look at history, if you look even at ourselves, the way we are, have we really changed? Has religion really changed us in any way? Or are we just finding more and more lies or more and more masks that we could place on our face so we could be good? We're not simple anymore. We're extremely complex. For no fucking reason. You know what I'm saying? Well, I know for fucking reason, and I know exactly why. I know exactly why, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of it is to do with, sedation. The older I get, the more if you look at it honestly, religion is nothing more than a coping mechanism. Religion is nothing more than a sedative. It's like heroin, numbing your desires, numbing everything around you. Idealism and religion is so separated from logic. You can't be logical and also be religious, because the entire basis of religion is separated from the realities of this world. And I love how Nietzsche made this a great point in the beginning of Beyond Good and Evil, where he talks about Immanuel Kant's entire fucking book, which is Byzantine. It was very difficult to understand, but if you really just get down to the nitty gritty, is him justifying Christian thought in secularized vocabulary. Our reason is limited. Therefore, there can't be a truth beyond ourselves. There can be something we could strive for. But how do you know what we're striving for if it's beyond our comprehension? A lot of us don't want to take that step further because we know we're bullshitting. We know we're stopping there for a reason. That's why I'm always thinking like that now. When I hear people talk like that, when I hear people come up with their bullshit fucking when I hear someone moralize, I already know they're bullshit. I'm doing this for the good. I'm doing this for that. I'm doing this for all this shit. Like, I know I sound like a cynic, but it really is that way. And that's how we should question things. You know what I'm saying? I'm a fucking man. Why the hell? Like, why am I being villainized every day? Why am I always being villainized for being a man? You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I being villainized for being violent? Why am I being villainized because I can exercise control and I can exercise power and I want to dominate? All us men want to dominate. All us men want to go to war. It literally is that way. That's why we all deal with anxiety nowadays, man. Like, if you think about it, why do so many of us guys are fucking killing ourselves by the tens of thousands every year in just the United States alone? Because everywhere we look around, we get reminded that our instincts are incorrect. How does that even make sense? You know, I'm in the school of thought, and I'm on the side of Thucydides. And I feel like if you're a man, you have to be on that side if you want to survive. You know, why waste time moralizing? You can make life so much more simple if you just accept reality for what it is, instead of making these elaborate excuses as to why our reality is in fact not reality. It's a giant error. Like Christianity, right? The inverted values. They look at the world and like, no. The poor will be the first sons or will rule the world one day and shit. Gee, I wonder why they say that. Right? I wonder why. I wonder why they would want to cast down the warrior caste and call them evil and bring up the fucking losers. I wonder why. You know, and that's a whole another conversation we can have. I mean, I can go on for hours about this shit, and I've talked about that many times, why so many rulers accepted Christianity. Because only retards accept religion. Only retards. What great ruler actually adhered to morality? Think about that. None. And they may say that in their memoirs, for example, but it's still selfish. Look at Alexander the Great. He wanted to be remembered. He wanted to go into Elysium and be remembered as this great warrior, this great king, which he definitely fucking was. And when I read the Campaigns of Alexander by Arrian, which is a great fucking book, there's a story supposedly that when he was sick towards the last few days of his life when he was in Babylon, that his wife caught him trying to jump off the edge, trying to jump off the balcony so he can disappear his body into the river. People would think that he got lifted by the gods. No great man wastes their time with morality. That's the reality of the world. The reality of the world, morals don't exist. God doesn't exist. And that is the absurdity of our lives. That's the absurdity of humanity. How we need these lies to keep going. And instead of accepting things for what they are, it's what it is. We have to come up with these lies, and we have to come up with these concepts, these elaborate labyrinths to hide the truth, to throw the truth somewhere. Like the Minotaur, for example. Let them go out in the dark. We have no idea where that is. I want nothing to do with the truth. A lot of people, no one wants to deal with the truth. You know? Reality is that there is always suffering. And then one day it's all going to end. And guess what? You know what the shame is? You won't be around to be remembered. You won't be around to see the fruits of your labor for centuries to come. But that's just how it is. You think all these great men cared about that? No, because they knew that they were going to get remembered. They knew that, goddamn, I'm going to die, but fuck, there is no way in hell people are going to forget about me. And it's selfish, but we have to be selfish. People are selfish to begin with. People impose upon you to be good and to side with this group and to say these things and to fucking call these people their pronouns and all this other stuff, imposing their will upon you and throwing the blanket that this is the right thing to do. Right for who? Definitely not right for me. I'm getting fucked. So, you know, even the concept of good. Not everyone has the same conceptions of good. And what is good for me ain't going to be good for you and vice versa. A lot of the time. Sometimes it's good, yeah. But a lot of times it's not. We're just so elaborate in our attempts, in our pathetic attempt to deal with the anxiety of the finality of our lives. You know, the curse and the blessing that is, that we know that one day we're going to die. And, you know, a lot of us can't accept that. A lot of us can't accept that when a family member passes away. My apologies. When a family member passes away or something, that'll be the end. We never see them again. If anything, that should make you appreciate the people around you and the world around you even more. You know, people say, how can you be an atheist and want to live life? And it's like, damn, that makes me want to live life even more. Because I know I only get one shot at this. I know that this is it. This is my only shot. And after this, it's done. It's over with. Why stress? You know what I'm saying? It's just how it is. I feel like us, I feel like a lot of us also deal with that anxiety and that depression because we know we're lying to ourselves all the time. We know it. We know that we may pretend to be good, but we know we're pieces of shit. We're lying to ourselves. And we deal with that guilt because we never can be truly honest with ourselves. Never truly. No one has ever truly honest with us. Not no one, but a lot of people are never truly honest with themselves. And that's why I love that analogy or whatever that Nietzsche made about, and I always talk about it, about the hermit. Talk about, making the question, why did you stop here? Why did you put the spade down and stop right here? Why? Why did you? Why didn't you go all the way? What are you hiding? What are you keeping behind closed doors? What are you throwing under the rug with your truth? You know what I'm saying? These are questions that we have to ask, and it makes us and it allows you to be more critical towards people, and it allows you to not believe all the bullshit that people throw in their face. I become to realize that the traits that people villainize is actually the traits we need in order to propel our lives forward. If you think about it, you have to be selfish to prepare your life forward. You have to be violent, not, completely physically violent unless you have to, but violent in the means like you have the capacity and the cojones to do what needs to be done. Because only those who do what needs to be done win. Religion is literally like a ceiling for us, for the peasantry. We can't do this because God is going to get mad at us. And God, we're going to go to hell. We do this and this and this and this. While the people who are running everything are not paying attention to that at all. Like that in itself should be an answer for you. But, no one ever wants to. They want to hide in their labyrinth. So that'll be all for today. I really am enjoying this little thing I got going on. It's only the second video, but I feel like I'm going to keep going with it. Thank you all for watching and listening. I hope you get to read this amazing book. It is a mindfuck, to say the least, and I really do love it. And I do love it, and I know that I'm probably getting into this book because it just continues to augment my original premises and biases and conceptions of the world. But like I said, I don't pay attention to religion because religion is nothing but bullshit, in my opinion. It really is a sedative and an opiate for the masses so we could remain stupid and docile while the people continue to rule the world. So, food for thought. So, thank you all again. I know I said this already, but thank you all for watching, listening. I love you all. Hope you all make a great day. Have a great day. Make gains. See your boys game big. Right on that DC training. Love y'all. And until next time. Peace.